It's Saturday, February 1st, 2020. Making a short video today on this beautiful afternoon. I was reading a few articles last night and this morning. Wanted to go over them with you, share my thoughts. It is quite an exciting time to be alive, also a very dangerous time to be alive with so much happening globally, so much happening right here. All of this uncertainty politically, socially, spiritually, financially. It's an exciting time to be alive, but also a scary time to be alive. So much happening. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we know it's not going to be boring, especially 2020, where I believe we're going to see some biblical and historical events starting to unfold. And all I can say to that is buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride for this 2020. But I want to start with this article today, shtfplan.com, consumer confidence at a 5-month high. You know, when I read things like this, I'm never at a loss for words. The consumer confidence climbed to 131.6 in January from 128.2 the month before. So we have the China trade deal, the soaring stock market, and unemployment at 50-year lows. And people are buying this hook, line, and sinker. We have low unemployment because many people we don't even count at this point. The numbers are very manipulated. And for the people that are working, a majority of the jobs being created in America are low-wage, low-paying jobs. When we look at the soaring stock market, well, we have a soaring stock market because we have a Fed now who is the buyer of last resort. We have a Fed injecting billions, hundreds of billions of dollars into the repo markets. We have a Fed buying bonds, buying stocks. So the stock market is soaring because of mass manipulation by the Federal Reserve, all of this fake data, all the fake optimism. China trade deal, we don't really have a deal with China. This phase one deal is not enforceable, and anybody, either side that disagrees can walk away. And from what I can see, I don't believe that China is going to be able to stick to this phase one deal. Again, it's unenforceable on both sides. There's really no commitment from either side. Anybody can walk away. And I just don't really see what America has to gain in the phase one deal. Phase two, again, it's in 3 sections, A, B, and C. It's going to take years to ever get to that point. So we don't really have any deal with China. So while the consumer spends more money, they acquire more debt, all based because they see a stock market that's up, they see a trade deal they believe is enforceable, they see the unemployment numbers. They are being deceived. All while they desire more credit cards while they struggle to pay student loans, pay auto debts, while banks hope to sustain record levels of profit amid a borrowing binge by U.S. households. And remember, the banks, the elite, the very people at the very top, they're getting all this cheap money from the Fed. And it is not trickling down into the economy. It is certainly not trickling down to you and I. In fact, the average consumer is now paying the highest credit card interest in history. So the banks now are charging you more interest than ever while they're getting all this cheap money. So it just blows my mind that people are literally volunteering to be debt slaves, while the elite and the bankers sit at the top and just laugh at how dumb people are. I read an article a few nights ago, Nordstrom's starts selling used clothes. And this kind of drew my attention. And Nordstrom's, a higher-end retailer, they understand, they get it. They know that the average consumer, the average American, is getting more poor. And they are going to begin selling secondhand clothing. So Nordstrom's will now be competing with Goodwill and consignment stores. I mean, this should kind of tell people what's going on, what's really happening when a store like Nordstrom's now is in the consignment business. So as the consumer continues to go broke, heavily leveraged with auto debt, credit cards, student loan debt, they can still enjoy luxury goods, but they're not going to be able to enjoy new luxury goods. They're going to have to buy secondhand ones. So I think it's a great idea by Nordstrom's, but it's another indicator of what's really happening to the consumer, that the consumer now is going to be going to Nordstrom's to buy secondhand clothing. It's just a sign of the times. So more things happening here. The Baltic Dry Index giving us another warning. The Baltic Dry Index is the most important indicator for the rates of bulk shipping. Prices are falling sharply due to the cooling global economy. The Baltic Index has plunged 10.5% this week as uncertainty soars in China. And it's not just China, but it's this global cool down that is taking place on top of what's happening now in China. And we do not know what's going to happen Monday. I believe China's markets are going to reopen, and we'll see what kind of damage they sustain over the weekend. But the Baltic Dry Index is a real indicator here. And these are very concerning numbers. The Baltic Dry Index has declined a staggering 80% since September 2019, yet everybody's telling you and I things are okay. They clearly are not okay. We just had another person test positive in Massachusetts. It's a male in his 20s. And another thing I want to bring up, since we're talking about China, is Apple is closing stores. As they're closing Starbucks, they're closing down McDonald's, they're closing down Apple stores now. What will this do on Monday to the markets, if anything? I mean, sometimes the more bad news you deliver to these markets, the better for the markets, because some miracle occurs and the markets go up. Will we see markets rebound on Monday? I don't know. I think it's really going to depend on what kind of news we get over the weekend of what's happening over in China, the rest of the world, and right here, as we've had a few more cases pop up. California is building parking lots to contain thousands living in their cars. This is very fascinating. I've watched some videos where people now are just sleeping overnight in their cars in these parking lots that have porta potties, a couple microwaves, and some of them actually have security. It's a great idea, but again, it's a financial indicator of what is happening in your countries. Many of these people have jobs. They cannot afford rent. They cannot afford mortgages. And so they're forced to sleep in their car, their SUV. Thousands of homeless Californians are being forced to live in their cars. And this article that I was reading was based out of San Diego. I've watched a couple specials on YouTube that were filmed in San Diego, and it's mind-blowing. California as a state accounts for half of the homeless population, which is just insane. Cities now, because of high taxes, low-paying jobs, inflated home prices, is forcing cities to now set up parking lots where homeless people can more securely spend the night. And I think that's good. I think that I have nothing against it. I think that that's a lot better than having people sleeping in tents and on sidewalks and what have you. But again, these people that are doing this, most of these people have jobs. They have a car. Whereas many of the homeless people have nothing. We have mental disorders, people with mental disorders, drug addictions, all kind of problems that have no job, have no car, and they have it even worse than these people. So, you know, even when you think you have it bad, somebody's got it worse. But going back to what's happening specifically in San Diego with these lots and some of the specials that I've watched on YouTube and some other shows, they showed security guards, delivery drivers, cleaning ladies, medical aides, all are staying in these type of places, these parking lots that are fenced in with porta potties and a microwave, because they cannot afford $2,000 a month for an apartment in San Diego, nor can they afford a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month mortgage for a house in San Diego. So this is what the American worker is being forced to do now, is to sleep in their car. and have breakfast with a public microwave that's set up, and clean up in a porta potty. So it's another sign of the times, another indicator to what is really happening in the economy. So as we have the China trade deal, we have the soaring stock market, we have unemployment at a 50-year low, why are people who have jobs sleeping in their cars in a parking lot? Think about that. The real economy is not doing well. This is the real economy. People sleeping in cars, using porta potties, using a public microwave, and then driving off, going to work and coming back, and then they close the gates at 9 o'clock at night and reopen in the morning so you can leave to go to your job. This may be an Uber driver or a Lyft driver or what have you. It is really sad to see what is happening to America. People want to work. People are putting in the effort, but they cannot afford to keep up with this housing bubble. They cannot afford to keep up with the cost of living. They cannot afford to keep up with food prices. I mean, these people are struggling to pay the registration on their vehicle. Heaven forbid you get a speeding ticket or some kind of moving violation that's $300+. These are real serious times, and this is what is really happening. So you can tell me all about the stock market, you can tell me about the unemployment numbers, you can tell me about the phase one deal, but I'm going to tell you about what's really happening, especially right here in Southern California. And I read the comments down below, and this isn't a Southern California problem. This is a U.S. problem. It is happening all over the entire United States of America, and it is getting worse. So I'm going to leave you with one last article, and this comes from wolfstreet.com, and this article is a real wake up to what's happening in the U.S. economy. It's a reflection of this economic environment, and for anybody telling you that things are great, they're either lying to you or they are ill-informed with what is happening. You need to be making sure that you are informed, that you are aware, awake, and educating yourself with what is happening financially right here in the United States of America, so that you are awake and preparing for a collapse, because it's coming. This collapse is going to be unstoppable. It's going to be enormous. It is going to be historical. And for the people who aren't prepared for it, it is going to take them out. Their retirements are going to be wiped out. Their 401ks are going to be wiped out. Their stock market is going to be wiped out. And this is going to wipe their futures out. And the only thing you can do at this point is prepare. Okay, because you're not going to prevent it, you're not going to stop it. All you can do is prepare the best that you can, and the best way to prepare is to get out of this system, get out of these markets, get out of these financial institutions. They are going to get hit hard. Wolfstreet.com, Union Pacific cut 17% of its workforce. Okay, look, it's right here. You can Google this, and it's an eye-opener. And it's a reflection of your U.S. economy. Union Pacific cut 17% of its workforce, promising more layoffs in 2020. Union Pacific has experienced a 9.5% drop in revenue and a 10% drop in net income in the fourth quarter. So just think about why that is. Like, well, we're being told that everybody's just buying on the internet. Well, how do you think things get shipped from the internet? They get shipped by trucks. They get shipped by rail cars. And remember, we have 400,000 rail cars sitting in storage that aren't even functioning right now because nobody needs them. Union Pacific blew $600 million in the fourth quarter and $5.8 billion in 2019 on buybacks, buying back its own shares, which it funded with $3 billion in new debt. This comes on top of the $8.3 billion in share buybacks in 2018. I mean, just look at what is happening to your country. Buybacks, massive debt, layoffs. So as soon as they can't pay the debt that they took on, all this debt, guess what happens? They get rid of your jobs. So guess who pays the price for taking on all the debt? The American worker pays the price. Between the fourth quarter of 2018 and the fourth quarter of 2019, U.S. Pacific axed 7,133 employees, 17% of its workforce. In 2020, 3,000 more workers will be cut. These are the good paying jobs. These are real jobs right here. And the real jobs are being decimated along with the middle class. Now, think about how much worse this can get with what is taking place in China and how China is going to disrupt the global economy if they cannot get things situated over there. The rail industry at one time employed 1 million Americans. It now employs 200,000. So think about that. We've lost 80% of our rail jobs. Sad. More than 20,000 rail workers have lost their jobs in the past year, the biggest layoffs in rail since the Great Recession, and nearly a 10% decline in rail employment. That's just in 1 year. Volumes are down so much that some economists are saying the nation is in a freight recession. There's no doubt we're in a freight recession, and there's no doubt that this is just the beginning. Real quick before I go, the 3-month and 10-year reinverted this week. The 3-month is at 1.55%. The 10-year is at 1.50%. Bond yields are plummeting because there is fear and there is uncertainty. And just imagine if this Fed wasn't in these markets pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into the repo market, buying stocks, buying bonds, creating massive amounts of debt. If the Fed was not in here doing this, where would we be right now? You know, the people that continue to tell you and I that everything is fine, they don't know anything about the repo market. They don't know how much a barrel of oil costs today. They don't know how much an ounce of silver costs today. But what they do know is who the starting quarterback is in the Super Bowl, okay? These are the people who will be running their credit cards up over the weekend for the Super Bowl. They know all the players, they know their names, their numbers, and their stats, but they don't know what's happening to their Social Security. They have no idea what's happening to their pensions. They have no idea what's happening to their 401k. They have no idea that they are being robbed while people laugh all the way to the bank. I'm going to leave it there today. Have a phenomenal weekend. Make sure that you're not listening to the masses. Make sure you're doing your own homework, your own due diligence, and make sure you are preparing. There is serious times coming to America. And remember, economic uncertainty turns into social uncertainty. So make sure you're preparing. Top off all preparations. Walk close to God. I'll talk to you very soon. God bless.